I'm excited to chat with Moira 𝐍𝐢 𝐆𝐡𝐚 today on the Awaken Feminine podcast. Moira is a business mentor and speaker showing entrepreneurs a powerful pathway to enrolling more clients, making way more money, and having a globe-trotting lifestyle. Gosh, that was a mouthful, but hey, everyone would love to globetrot at the moment without the complicated strategies, so they can finally enjoy the success and the freedom they started their business for in the first place. She has captivated audience worldwide with her powerful presentations, her retreats in Paris and New York, as well as her newest venture, stylish secret supper style gatherings for big thinking entrepreneurs to get their message out in a big way anywhere in the world. And I know she has so much love and wisdom to share with us today. She's joining me all the way from Ireland. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kaki. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, we've got two total opposite ends of the world going on right now.
Yeah, I know. It's so exciting. I love these conversations because, you know, we can just talk to anyone, anywhere in the world, and it's just perfect. So, Moira, before we dive into our conversation today, I really would like to ask you this question. What is your definition of an awakened feminine?
My definition of an awakened feminine. Well, I would say that the number one thing for me is that she knows what she wants and that she is fearless in her efforts to get it. I think that an awakened feminine really realizes that, you know, there's magic in the world and we can truly have anything our hearts desire. So if we put the right intention behind it, that for me is an awakened female feminine, an awakened feminine.
Yeah, that's a beautiful definition. Thank you. Everyone has their own definition, and I just always love finding out what that is. So thank you for sharing that with us. So Moira, let's dive in. I really like to know how you started doing what you're doing and why you do what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly wasn't always a speaker. So I've used speaking to grow my business worldwide. And literally growing up, the words I heard the most were shut up, stop talking. You've said enough now, Moira. We don't want to know what you've got to say. And I literally believed for many years, especially growing up, that I was cursed in some way because all I did want to do was talk. It was all I was I wasn't interested in reading. I wasn't interested in history. I wasn't interested in all the boring subjects, but anything to do with talking, I was there. Sign me up. There weren't very many opportunities to do that. And I think, like for many of us, we've grown up in households where, you know, women were to be seen but not heard. So I really went through the early part of my life feeling that I was cursed for this. And, you know, I remember this one moment at school and I'd been put outside the classroom talking too much, happened all the time. And this one teacher didn't like me and I heard him coming down the corridor and I was just like, oh my gosh, he's going to see me now and I'm in trouble already and I'll be in more trouble. And he stopped and he looked at me and he said, you know, Moira, you're never going to make anything of your life if all you want to do is talk.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, he's right. I'm cursed. This is awful. What am I going to do? And, you know, all I can say is when I got into the entrepreneurial path, I had no idea that speaking was a thing. And fast forward to today, I've spoken on stages all over the world. But not only that, I've shown other women how to share their messages and stories and use their voice as their most powerful marketing tool. And I've built a multiple six-figure business from being able to do that. So I got into entrepreneurship, not having a clue, like many people. But I realized very quickly that I had something in my back pocket that I loved to do, but I was never shown how to use it properly. I was never shown like how to use it in terms of marketing. So when I started my business first, starting it in a very small town, I come from the northwest corner of Ireland. There's like 5,000 population here. There aren't networking events and organizations and all the things that, you know, you get in cities. So I had to be more creative. And I got an opportunity to speak at an event one day. And this was before I knew speaking was going to be a thing for me. And it was unusual that there would be an event. And when I saw it, I was like, I have to be one of the speakers. I have to do this. So I marched myself into the organizer's office and I gave him my 1 minute speech on why he should invite me as a speaker. I don't even know what I said. And he said, okay. And I was like, what? yes, I can. And he goes, yeah. And then I walked out and went, oh God, what the hell am I going to talk about? So I had this whole other problem in my hand. But fast forward to the day of the event, I did a 20-minute presentation. I spoke from my heart. I shared, what I could around how to create more sales, because I was focused on sales at the time. And after I spoke, Kaki, 2 people came up and wanted to work with me. And one person invited me to speak at an event that was going to have 200 people at it. And it was that day that I thought to myself, wow, if I can do this in 20 minutes, this is how I'm going to grow my business fast. And then I put my heart and my soul into finding as many stages as I possibly could over the years that followed. And I went from being 10K in debt at that time to a multiple 6-figure business. So that's how I got started. So it kind of grew with me. I didn't become a speaker and then start speaking. I just failed my way onto every stage and walked out of the room with clients and contracts almost every time.
That is such an inspiring story, and just goes to show when you are determined to do something, magic happens. Yeah, that's so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really knew I wanted a successful business. I wasn't playing around, and I could see lots of businesses struggling. And I was just like, that's not going to be me.
That's awesome. Sorry, I love your accent so much. I can listen to you talk all day. So I'm just like listening to you going, oh, I just love listening to you talk. I want to ask you, so you were saying that you didn't, that was your first speaking gig.
Yeah.
Was it, well, you obviously were really good, but how did you improve on your speaking as you moved forward?
I wouldn't say I was even that good that day. My hand was shaking so badly, Kaki, that I had to hold the microphone against my chin. It was that bad. So the thing was, people just didn't seem to notice. And that's the thing. Nobody really knows what's going on with us. And the way I got good was I just kept speaking. And after I would get off a stage and people would want to work with me or people would want to connect with me, I was just very interested in why. What was it about what I said? What was it about what I did? And I really found that it was very little to do with content.
Okay.
It was always the story I told, or it was always something around how I made them feel. And I think that when we think about speaking, we get like, oh my God, I have to spend all my time creating all these presentations. 7% of communication is verbal. Then we spend no time on that other 93%.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I kind of feel like at the beginning, I was kind of winging it. I was kind of going there with, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have some fun with the audience and I'm going to be interested in them. And that made me ask more questions, engage with the audience, get people moving, get people standing up, having people engage with me and having fun. And afterwards, people would say to me, my gosh, I had so much fun. That was so energetic. I love that story you shared about how you used to be told to shut up and all this. But it was very rarely, was it about, that was a really valuable piece of content you shared at minute 35 or whatever. And we become obsessed with that stuff.
It's so interesting that you say that, because when I look at social media and even with all the marketing tips and everything, everyone's like, oh, you need to create content that creates value, that shows people how to do things. And you're basically telling, our audience here who's listening is like, well, yeah, okay, yeah, you give value, but people aren't hung up on that. They actually want to just hear your story and find out who you are and know how you are as a person, so that they are attracted to you as a person rather than what you have to offer.
Absolutely. People want to know what you stand for, and people want to know what you've been through. Because if you've been through something that they're going through and you've been successful, you're their hero then. They need to believe that it worked for you so that it'll work for them. When I first started speaking, I didn't tell the story about being told to shut up in school, because that really didn't unfold until I got to the root of why I was so scared to get on stage, and why I realized that after speaking on scores of stages, that it was because I was always afraid somebody was going to tell me to leave the room or to shut up, right? And I would never have found that out if I had just spoken once and then thought, oh, let me try something else now, right? I'm sure your listeners know what I mean. You do something and it works, and then you're like, what will I do now? When actual fact is like, well, do that again. do that 10 times. If you get a client doing that one thing, do that 10 times and get 10 clients, right? But I never would have had that insight into myself. And in the beginning, I just told the story of how I was a youth worker living in London before I became an entrepreneur. And I really hit a wall in my life when I was about 36 years old. Nothing in my life made sense. I was quite a big party girl at the time. I'll hold my hands up to that. But I worked hard and I partied hard at the weekend. But I had a great life. I was going on loads of city trips, fashion shows, all of that. And if anybody had been looking at my social media, they would have been like, oh, Moira's really got it going on. But actually, Moira was really dying inside. I was bored with my life. And I started thinking, like, what can I do? Where can I go? And I felt I had the world at my fingertips. I thought about Japan. I thought about working for an airline. I wasn't really thinking about starting my own business. And then I went to Paris for the weekend. And I thought, if I get myself out of London and into a new city, I'll come up with some new ideas. And when I was in Paris, I was sitting in this cafe in Montmartre, had my journal, my coffee, my pen, and I'm writing notes. And then I get a phone call from home. And any other day I got a phone call from home, I'd be like, oh, cool, it's mom, it's dad, whatever. But the way home came up on the screen this day, I had this feeling of peace wash over me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I want to go home. I want to go home and be with my parents. And to be 36 years of age, I left home when I was 18, couldn't wait to leave because I come from a really small country village, I would say. Yeah. It was just unfathomable to me that I was like, really? I want to go home? I can go anywhere? What? So I listened to the call. I went back to London, packed in my job, very quickly found myself back in Ireland. And that was the beginning of my journey. You know, and I used to tell that story a lot. And people used to come up to me at the end who were in jobs that they hated. And the fact that I left my job and I took a chance on myself, that I didn't have all the answers, but I trusted myself. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to live a bigger life. I wanted to have abundance. I wanted to travel. I knew all of those things, but I was like, well, what's going to be the fuel to make that happen? I didn't know. I didn't have the answers, but I followed my heart. And I think if you follow your heart, especially in moments like that, you can't go wrong. That was a divine calling for me, because 5 years later, my mother passed. And there's no way I would have known, or anybody would have known, that my mother was sick at the time. I certainly didn't. But I got to spend 5 full years with her, traveling with her, living with her, having fun with her. She used to come to my talks with me. She was my biggest fan, but I never would have got that opportunity had I not have listened to that. So yeah, went off in a bit of a tangent there.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And that's such a beautiful story that you got to spend that time with your mum. And you know, like you said, is divine calling for you to actually go back to have that time and then really find your way and your purpose, and, you know, look where you are now. So it's perfect. So when you first started off when you started your business, you were saying that you didn't start speaking until you didn't realize speaking was a thing. So how long were you in business before you found out speaking was actually a thing?
Yeah. So the first business I started was a travel business. And the way the travel business got started was because I came to this gorgeous corner of the planet, saw how amazingly beautiful it was. Like, I'd never seen it before, even though I grew up here, but I had a different point of view this time. And all around me, I could see businesses closing. Tourism was our biggest industry. People were leaving. It was around about the recession of 2012. And all I could see was opportunity. But yet everybody else just seemed to think that we had nothing to offer. And I said, the biggest problem here is that nobody knows we exist. And I thought, you know what? I'll solve that problem. I'm going to tell people that this place exists, and I'm going to put together these heart-led adventures so people can come and experience this corner of the world and have the most memorable Irish experience that they've ever had. So for 2 years, I put my heart and soul into doing that. It was never a business I did for the money. It was really something I felt I could make a difference, and I did. And that's how I got on the entrepreneurial path. And because I was doing that, I was always being interviewed. It was in the national news. It was a TV documentary done about it. Kaki, no joke, there were like helicopters arriving on the local football fields here for these corporate groups that I had sold on coming to Donegal for an experience. So people were really interested in my story. So people were inviting me to share and to talk about what I was doing. And it was around about then that I realized that this travel business was never really going to bring me the kind of income that I wanted. It wasn't even going to replace the 30,000 a year I was making in my last job, but I was happy, you know. And then when I took a step back and I looked and I thought, well, what is it that people are always asking me for? Is a really great question to ask yourself if you're not sure about if you're going in the right direction. And I realized that most of the people that were coming to me were saying, how did you get those customers? How did you get those clients? What did you do to close that sale? Where did you learn about sales? Can you teach me about that? And I thought, oh my gosh, I could actually start, instead of me getting customers for these people, I could start then teaching them on how they can do this for themselves. And that's when I started coaching and mentoring. And because I had a idea that speaking got me some exposure, that's when I started to be open for opportunities to speak. And when I really decided that I was really going to go for it with the coaching business, I came up with this idea, another divine moment. I was at a networking event. I was after speaking on stage. And this woman asked me, like, because I was from Donegal and it was in another county, she was like, oh, are you going to be speaking in other places? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be speaking in all over Ireland. She was like, oh really? And I was like, yeah, in fact, I'm doing a speaking tour of Ireland. And I was like, I'm going to go around the country and I'm going to wake up the entrepreneurs in this country to the possibility that is right in front of their noses, the possibility of a bigger, a better life, of the income they want, the impact they want to make. And they're asleep too, because they don't think that they're good enough, or they don't have the tools, or all of that stuff. And the woman was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I was like, yeah. So I left that event going to myself, oh, okay, Moira, so we're doing a speaking tour of Ireland, are we? And I did. And the thing was, there's 26 counties in Ireland, well, in the Republic. And I thought to myself, if I can get one speaking engagement in every county, that's 26 speaking engagements. If I was averaging on getting about 2 to 3 clients from every stage I spoke on, and I thought to myself, oh my God, that could be 100 clients. I'm going to do that. And it was after that, like that journey that got me to the multiple 6 figures. So that's how I did that. I'd love to say I sat down with my team and we came up with this like grand marketing plan, all of that. But it wasn't, it was literally a moment where the idea just plopped in my head and I just went for it. I was like, you know what? That feels good. I could do that. Plus, secretly, and this is one thing that I want to share with people, when you're, if you're interested in using speaking to grow your business, the thing about speaking is it can take you all over the world, because the same organizations and networks in your town are in other towns or in other cities and in other countries. So I got a taste for traveling around Ireland. So I secretly thought, well, this will be a great way to see Ireland and have my company pay for it as well. So I got to visit and stay in beautiful hotels all over the country. And then I took it to a whole other level then in the following year of my business, and it became more about lifestyle. And that's where the globetrotting lifestyle came from. I was literally traveling all over the world. I would choose places that I wanted to visit, and then I would find opportunities to speak. And then I would go and I would maybe even live there for a while, like Bali. Where else did I go? I went New York, Florida, Paris. Name it before, and then the pandemic came and really nipped that in the bud for me.
Yeah, nipped that in the bud for a lot of people, everyone. But what an awesome lifestyle to have, to just globetrot and speak, doing your favorite thing and making money. Gosh, like that's just like a dream. And so, Moira, why don't more people do what you do, like speak on stage, get paid, and globetrot?
Yeah, good question. Why don't more people do it? Well, you know what? I think that people have a preconceived notion that in order to speak, you've got to be famous first, or you've got to have loads of followers, or you've got to be like Mel Robbins or something. The method of speaking that I use is speaking on stages that are free. So speaking at free events and then making a free offer and then converting that free offer into a high paying client. So for example, if you've got a 10K offer, a 10K coaching package, you speak at an event where there's like 30 people. You get 10 people interested in your offer, which would be some sort of session with you. And then you get a 20 or 30% conversion from that 10, then you can make 20 to 30,000 from that stage. If you want to make 100,000, then you repeat that same process 4 times. If you want to make 1 million, do it 10 times.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. And I think that people think that in order for them to get speaking, that they need to be famous, but actually you don't. You just need to have a really powerful message. You need to have something you want to share. I think that you need to be somebody who's driven more than just to make money, that you have a bigger mission with your business, because then it's going to be a natural thing for you to want to get on stage. So I would say that, what is that mission that you feel deeply connected to, and how important is it for you to get that out in front of more people and become a sought after authority by doing it? And I think those people recognize that speaking is a thing. And I think the people that don't are not thinking that they've got anything really of value to share with the world. So that's what I would say to that. I also don't think that people think that you can travel with speaking, or they think that they need to find an organization somewhere who's going to fly them out to Bali and pay for their hotels and all that. And that's happened. I've done that as well. But it's actually better for me to decide, hey, I want to go to New York. What are the rooms in New York that, would like to hear the presentation that I have? And I'll get myself there. And then I can make way more money by speaking on stages my way than getting a one-off fee, because there's actually a lifetime value of speaking like this. If you speak on stage once and you get paid a fee, once you get paid that fee, it's done. If you speak on stage like what I'm telling you to do, the people who heard you speak in January, February, March, April, they might come back to you in the months and years that followed because you touched their heart. They remember your story. And then when they're ready to work with you, they'll remember you. So this type of speaking pays for years and years and years. I've had people who heard me speak 3 years ago and come back and join my highest level program. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of longevity with this, and it's a much more robust way of growing your business. And it's an amazing marketing strategy. Amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I feel the more you are able to get your message across and speaking, I mean, you speak on stage like podcasts and all those things. I think now people are realizing how important it is to be heard. And I want to touch on that because I know one of your missions is really to help women, be heard and build that financial freedom. But you had your story about, being told to shut up and all that kind of stuff. Were there, did you have to do much healing to improve your speaking, or was there a healing journey in there to then help you realize that was what your mission is, to help other women not be told to shut up, to go, I don't want to shut up. I want to speak and tell people my truth and my story and, my purpose, my mission and everything else.
I think I did things kind of backwards.
It's okay. It's always divine timing, right?
Well, everybody has their own journey, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurship does bring up all the yucky stuff. Me and my friend call it the swamp, right? So all the feelings, all the feels. But it's like, I was on such a mission when I started. I just almost didn't even have time to even like my head, I moved so fast. I didn't even have time to let it settle. So when I did get to a certain level of success, I was shocked at who I was. All of a sudden, I was like, oh my God, who am I now? And that really stalled me. That really made me think, well, who am I with all this success? Is it okay to have all this success? Am I going to get in trouble for making all this money? Am I doing something wrong? So I had all of those feelings, but they were amplified by the speed of how I grew my business. Whereas I think that a lot of women, when they start out, even like charging something for their services can bring up a lot for them and raising their prices. And they do a lot of work, a lot of deep work, a lot of healing, and then they get started. And that just didn't happen for me. I was just like, no, I want to start making 10,000 a month. I didn't even make 10,000 a month. I started making 16,000 a month all of a sudden. And then I started making 30,000 a month. And then I was making more in a month than I used to make in a year in my job. That brought up all sorts of craziness for me. And it took me a long time to like be okay with that, you know. And I had moments where I was always very open about talking about making money, because it's business. And I'm not saying business money is the most important thing about business, not at all, but it's an integral part of growing a business. So it just seemed like, well, you're growing a business, of course you're going to speak about money, but it seemed that that wasn't a conversation people were okay with having. And I just didn't even like think, because I was moving so fast. So I was being interviewed and I would share something about making 10,000 a month or 30,000 a month. And, you know, the presenters would say, 30,000 a month? What? You know, like these like reactions. And I used to be like, oh my God, I was being shamed.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, and that brought up the stuff that needed to be healed.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes. I remember coming out of a local radio station after that. It was that exact statement that was said to me live on radio. And this is like neighbors and people that know me listening, sort of thing. I just wanted to crawl under my desk. I didn't want to go on Facebook Live and continue my business. I was just like, I've just been completely shamed. And then
for making money.
For making money. From helping other people make even more money, you know. And I see other people, it was women that I was working with. And I mean, like, I don't want to get into the patriarch and the man who was like interviewing me and all of that. But like, boy, that was like a slap in the face. And then, you know, that brought on an identity crisis for me, I would say, one that I didn't realize I was going through. I can say it now because it was a few years ago and I can see looking back what was going on. And then my mom passed away. So then it was like, who am I being successful and who am I being motherless now? You know, so when you ask me about healing, those are the kind of things that came up for me. And I think we're all going to go through losing our mothers at some point. But that's been some of the toughest. And that really took me out of the game. When I say took me out of the game, I didn't grow for a couple of years. I just stayed at that same income level. I just sort of coasted at a high level. But I wasn't driven to grow because I had to heal first.
Yeah. And what were like some of the things that really helped you to heal the, you know, all the things as you were going through it? Like, what were the main tools that really helped you?
You name it, I've done it.
Like, give me everything.
I've done it all. Like, I'd love if you did name something, because I'm like, just like, what is it? Will it help me? Give it to me. Oh, I've everything from, I've done RTT, I've had energy healing, I've done psychic work, I have a business numerologist, and a lot of it was helping me make sense of it all, you know. But I think that the deepest work for me has been just going within, getting my journal out, pouring my heart out to myself, looking in the mirror and saying, Moira, everything is okay and I love you. And I know that's like, if you had asked me to say something like that 5 years ago, Gaggy, I would have went, that is so not me. Because I was so seeing as we're in this conversation, I always saw myself as a man that would run my business, like that got my business it was so masculine. I was so driven. It was like sales, 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 go, 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 go. You know, I didn't even have the understanding or the conversation of masculine and feminine. That's only come in the last like 5 years. But like 10 years ago, I didn't know anything, but I know that it wasn't my feminine who grew my business that fast. Definitely not. I definitely feel much more in my feminine. I would say that I have a good balance these days. And I think the feminine part of me really helped me heal for sure.
Yeah. It's so interesting because actually so many of the women that I've spoken to, it feels like the ones that really were in their masculine and, you know, building their business, is in the last few years that they kind of started embracing their feminine side. It's like something's kind of like sparked everyone to just awaken that feminine side of things, and really for every one of us, men and women, to really find that harmony and balance between the two energies, so that, you know, we can create even more magic. Because just like, you know, what you were doing, having that masculine side, yes, you know, you got to what you wanted to do, but then the feminine is just like, okay, right, I need to kind of like be healed, and, you know, can we sort this side out and bring us out and balance us? So it's so interesting to hear that, yeah, that side of the story for you. And it's beautiful that, you know, that you've got that balance now, and your business is now growing again after your healing and that part of the journey. So that's, yeah, thank you for sharing that.
And I don't doubt that there's more work to do. So I don't want to I'm dying now. I got it going on. I'm just going to glide my way to millions of dollars. I do not. I know there's more. There's more in the swamp.
There's always more in the swamp.
I might have a little canoe in the swamp this time, you know.
Yeah, sometimes the swamp likes to throw things at us without our, you know, us getting ready for it. Exactly. I think it's always like a growing and learning process. So, and that's the beauty of each of our journeys. Definitely. Yeah. So, Moira, can I ask you a question? Like, from doing your speaking engagements, what's a tip or something that you've learned that would really help other entrepreneurs that want to start on their speaking journey for their business?
I would say bring as much of yourself to the table as humanly possible. Be the rawest, truest version of yourself, and then change one thing. Just change one thing, and that's the audience. Don't change who you are. Allow yourself to get better. Just change the audience every time and bring that same natural rawness, realness to every stage, knowing that it's going to be a different audience every time.
That is powerful. Full goosebumps going on here. That is, yeah, change the audience and not you. I think a lot of us like to change ourselves to fit the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's exhausting. Yeah. They change themselves. They change their content. They change their branding. They change their message. They change their story. And that's not what effective, powerful, profitable speakers do. They actually have the same presentation. In fact, if you think about, let's say, Les Brown, for example, he has the same stories. It's the same talk. Yeah. You listen to him speak, it's always the same. Tony Robbins, UPW, 40 years, he's been doing the same presentations.
Yeah. And it works.
Years. Exactly.
Like what you said, do it like one time, 100 times, 1,000 times. If it works, you keep doing the same thing, right? Yeah. And then, you know, the other crucial part of that, and we mentioned Les Brown. I actually was speaking on stage with him in New York that time. I mentioned that I went to New York. It was a gig with Les Brown I ended up getting. And the day of the event where I was going to speak on stage with him, I was so excited. Like, he was like an all-time, I was a huge fan. And when I was sitting waiting, you know, I had about an hour or so before I got on stage, I realized I'd forgotten my shoes. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So I was wearing these flat shoes. And obviously I go on shoes with heels. And I advise every single woman listening to go on stage with heels. So I was like, oh my God, I got to get my heels. So I ran outside, called an Uber, and I'm standing on the street. It's in the middle of the day in Manhattan. The Uber driver came and I looked and I thought, oh God, that can't be the car I've ordered. It was this really beat out Honda. Like, the only thing that was missing from this car was like a tin can coming off the back. And I was just like, how are you even allowed to drive? Oh my gosh. Okay, whatever. Get in the car. You know, there's me, international speaker, blah, 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 going driving. You know, it was just like, this isn't what I had in mind. But anyway, so I get in the car and the man, you know, he's so friendly.
He's like, where are you from? What are you doing here? Etc. And I'm like, oh, let's just get to where I'm going. I'm going on stage in like 45 minutes. I'm freaking out here. So we get to the destination and I go to get out of the car and the Uber driver, I said goodbye. And the Uber driver goes, oh, excuse me, ma'am. Can you give me a 5-star rating? And I was like, what? He goes, can you give me a 5-star rating? And I was like, why? And he said, well, didn't I take you where you wanted to go? And I was like, yeah. He goes, I want to boost my score. And I was like, okay. So I got out of the car. I gave the guy a 5-star rating. Why did I do it?
I don't know.
Well, he did it. He wasn't a 5-star car. He did it because he asked for it.
Yeah.
He did it because he asked for it. And this is what I'm saying. Like the one of the biggest reasons that you, me, in many cases are not speaking on more stages and you're listening. If you're here, if you're listening to this right now, it's because you're simply not asking for the opportunities.
Yeah.
And if an Uber driver can ask every customer who gets in his beat out car, can you give me a 5-star rating? You can ask to speak on stage at every event that you go to that you think is suitable for you.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the more you ask, the better you get. The better you get at asking. And it's the same ask every time. So you can get really good at it.
That's such awesome advice, Moira. Thank you for that. That is gold. That is absolute gold. And I mean, kudos to that Uber driver. I mean, for
5.5 average. It's just like, oh my God. That just shows you what a lesson in sales, huh?
Yeah. Well, he's really good at it while he's still an Uber driver. Moira, I'm just mindful of the time. I just want to ask you one more question before we wrap up. What is currently setting your soul on fire?
Ooh, well, I would say the thing that's setting my soul on fire right now is that I am coming back to the very beginning again. I don't know if any of your listeners are into numerology, but I am coming into the end of my 9-year cycle. Yes. And I literally started my business on my year 1 of a 9-year cycle, which is like crazy. And I had a dream when I moved home. I didn't mention that I actually inherited a small cottage beside a mountain with like 8 acres of land around it. That was my grandparents' original home. And when I started my business first, I had a dream of having a retreat center that I was going to invite people from all over the world. But I had no money. I had no network. I had no clue. I had never grown a business. It was never going to happen. So fast forward to today, and I just got approved for planning permission. And over the next year, I'm going to convert and build onto this space. So events that I've been hosting around the world in Paris and London, New York, I'm going to be hosting them here so that it's actually going to bring more people to this local area, which was my original idea.
Oh my, that is, I want to swear, but I won't, but that is so awesome. I mean,
it was my original idea. And Moira of 10 years ago had no clue how to do it. Moira of today is going to elegantly make this happen.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear that. That is just, wow. Wow.
So that's setting my soul on fire because it just feels so good, feels so right. It feels I deserve it. I've worked for it. It's going to make an impact. It fits perfectly with my business. So you never know, Kaki, you might be coming here.
Yeah. Oh, I will. I would love to. Yes. But yeah, as soon as you said that you were going to build on your inherited cottage, the land, I was like, oh, full body goosebumps. So yeah, so perfect. Oh, I'm just so happy hearing that. It's such a happy story. Thank you for sharing that. That's so amazing. And I look forward to hearing when it's completed and when you have your first event there.
Yes, I know. I can't believe I'll be hosting a first event sometime like in the next couple of years. It's crazy.
Exciting. So exciting.
Yeah. And the trip I was telling you at the beginning that I've been hosting this monthly training, and the whole idea of I do this 5-day challenge, and the whole idea of the challenge is so I can help people dial in their destiny so that they don't just have a business that makes them some money, that they actually have a business that is built around what they're destined to do and what would set their soul on fire, like what you say. and to help them become that sought after authority. And a lot of the training I'm going to be doing in the space that I'm building is going to be around that. And it's going to be called Dialing Your Destiny in Donegal. So it's going to be very specific. And my goal between now and then is to create $1 million from one launch. And if I can do that, that means I'm going to be bringing people here so that I can teach them to do that as well.
That is amazing. And
yeah,
all the best with it all. And you're on fire. And I know when you're determined to do something, you get it done Moira style. So, hey, I'm looking forward to attending your talks and your retreats in
absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your love and wisdom with us today. If people want to find out more about you or how they can work with you, where should they go? And I know you've got your 5-day challenge, so if you want to talk a bit more about that, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, so that's like the best way to come hang out with me, actually. If anybody wants to spend a week with me, dialing in the destiny of your business, then showing you how you can use speaking to make sure that you can create the income and the influence that you want to create with your business fast, and really show you how to maximize every single stage that you speak on. And I think that if you're clear on how to do that, asking and finding the gigs is going to be so much more easier for you. And if you're someone who like me likes to travel, I share my entire formula of how I've been able to move around the world and get paid basically to travel. So if that sounds like fun, I would definitely jump into that. And then otherwise, I'm on Instagram almost every day, and I'm on Facebook, all the channels. So I would love anybody who hears this, if they want to reach out and say hi that you heard the podcast, that'd be awesome.
Perfect. I will have all your details in the show notes so people can reach out to you. Thank you so much, Moira, for your time. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for the opportunity. It takes two, Kaki. It really takes two.
Thank you so much, Moira.